What up, Vol Nation? It is your boy Madison Castle. And this week I decided to take us outside of Tennessee and place us right down here in North Carolina. I'm joined this week with one of North Carolina's most well-known independent film directors, Jaiden Frost.
I'm not trying to be the one who feels their ego all the way up. 'Cause arrogance can grow.
You achieved viral sensation at a young age with like Five for Frost. What's it been like stepping out of that lane and actually, I guess, growing your industry from film, music videos, and now writing books?
I guess writing books was something like I always kind of wanted to do. Like it wasn't something that I just kind of woke up one day and decided to do. I think that's like a big misconception when they're like, oh, wait, a lot of people have seen it. I wanted to do books and everything since I was a kid, and I just could. I've always been a writer, and when I discovered film, I was like, of course I love film. You know, I got my first camera when I was like in fifth grade and everything, and started shooting things like that. And then I started to tell stories, and then whenever I was like, you know what, I want to start telling stories of my own in like longer form, I started learning that screenwriting made way more money. Now that's kind of like a catch-22, considering if you can actually sell a screenplay, then of course you're going to make way more money than you would doing books. But just the whole idea of doing a novel and everything scared me, and I became friends with an author, and she is amazing. She started editing my stuff, and she was just like, look, you need to actually publish this. You need to do this. And Grimewood, is something I've wanted to do since I was a kid. I've always wanted to tell a story.
One of the things I'm curious about is like what's the thing that you would say has been like the biggest achievement with writing this book?
Interesting question. I think the biggest achievement of writing a book is understanding that it doesn't end there. And I think that that's, if I can give any advice to new authors and everything, is understanding that we live in a 2019 environment, so things change. And coming from the music industry like I have, coming from the film industry like I have, I understand that the tide has changed. It's no longer just write a good book. It's write a good book, have a good cover, have a good promotional plan, have good products and merchandise. Is it merchandisable? Can you create micro content out of it? How can you make this book stand out on its own? Which is one of the reasons why we decided to do the VHS sleeve thing. And it's these little things that you can do, and it's one of the reasons why I opted to not go with a publisher, is because a publisher doesn't necessarily see that, and they don't understand where it goes. And like I think that that's one of the things that I learned the most about doing books is that the literary industry is behind immensely, and it's insane how behind they are, and they're constantly trying to pick up. And where we made jokes in the film industry forever that we're behind, whoa, is the book industry behind? Like, man, like in the music industry is kind of the ones that are running things. They're the ones that are making the big changes and changing fast, because at the end of the day, music will always be cool, film will always be kind of cool, and books are just like not cool. And it's kind of weird that books aren't cool. But, and when I say cool, I mean like trendy and everything like that. When something is trendy, it usually sits at a forefront of their industry and suddenly can kind of become and shift with the trends. And when something's cool, it typically has, trend runners at the beginning of it, at the front of it. And that doesn't necessarily seem to happen in the book industry. So that's kind of one of my goals with Grimewood. And that's one of the things that I learned, is that there's nobody at that forefront. And is there a place for me? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that's kind of the fun part about it. But as of right now, I think that I have a lot of chances that necessarily wouldn't be in other industries, because in other industries, they seem to be dominated by the new forefronts. And if I can be at the front of the new forefront for books, I mean, only time will tell. So,
Without actually ruining the book for future readers, what can you tell us about the book? Can you give us like a sneak peek into what the book's about, just so, I don't know, we might go out and get this book?
it's a horror mystery, which always seems to kind of sit a little weird with people, because something that may be a horror but has a lot of mystery, suddenly you're starting to learn, rather than, I mean, a good example is that is like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, like that was very much so a horror mystery. You were horrified, but more or less you were trying to learn. And I believe that that is a good way of putting Agatha's curse. Now, to try to describe it simply is to say it's Goosebumps for the generation that grew up on Goosebumps and wanted more Goosebumps, but now we're adults and didn't want to read the original books. Agatha's Curse is about a kid who moves to Grimewood, and he is not familiar with this town. His parents are from this town, but they never lived there. They moved away. He's going through some problems with his family and has to move in with his grandmother. He moves in with his grandmother, and now he has no idea what he's doing. He's been alone. He was already a loner at his previous school. Now he's a loner in this new school. And he meets this new group of friends, and this new group of friends informs him, hey, the Founders Day is coming up. It's the Founders Day of Grimewood, and the city and town celebrates it. We are doing our own celebration. Would you like to help us out? Would you like to be a part of it? And, you know, he's an awkward kid, has no friends, you know, he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to, like, he didn't want to be at home with his parents. He damn sure didn't want to be, can I say that?
Yeah, I think we can all kind of relate to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't want to be with his grandmother. He didn't want to be with his parents. He didn't know where he wanted to be. And he found this group of friends, and they kind of showed him. And then that kind of opens up like, hey, there's deeper stuff going on here in this town than what you thought. You know, you thought this was a normal town, but it's a little bit less than normal. And then that kind of opens up the myth lore, the mythology of Grimewood, and it shows not only Michael, the protagonist, but it shows the people reading, like, this is what Grimewood is.
People tend to see entertainers as just entertainers. They forget that people have real lives outside of that work. Another two-part question is, how do you find time to relax? Because I know sometimes you have to take a break. The other thing is, I also know that you're engaged. So what's it been like writing the books and putting out the movies while being a fiance? So
that's a very good question, actually. I'm kind of known for my relationship. A lot of people, if you follow me, you know that, like, oh, you know, Jaiden and Ruby are like obsessed with one another, and you know, we are. I think that it's a separation. There's something, I can't remember his name right now. He created Quest bars. I'm so sorry. I feel like such a jerk for not remembering his name. He's awesome though. It's not Tim. Either way. He said something, okay, honestly, in this kind of new day, everybody kind of idolizes Gary Vaynerchuk. Everybody's like, Gary Vee says, be patient, be patient, be patient, be patient. And I agree with that. But this other guy said, do 10 years worth of work in 6 months and see what happens. 10 years worth of work in 6 months and see the change of things. 1 second. I'm sorry. My phone's been getting blown up. As if irony is right there. That's a good example right there. Is like, you know, when you're doing something, you got to keep doing it. Like right now, she's at work. I wasn't answering the phone. Sometimes you don't have the time to answer the phone. Sometimes you don't have the time to be there. Sometimes you don't have the time to be a person. Sometimes you have to be the machine that keeps running and doing that 10 years worth of work in 6 months. You know, like everything that Grimewood's doing is everything that Goosebumps did within the first 10 years. But I think the way to truly balance, you know, your work and everything like that, your craft with your life, is to blend them. If my fiance was not a part of Grimewood, she does all the special effects makeup, she does the set design, she is one of the editors on the book, on all of the books. She is also a character that she's playing. She's an actor in the cinematic universe. There's a lot that's going into Grimewood that she puts in just as much. And if she wasn't there with me, working on it with me, she wouldn't be there. And that's sad to say, but I think that's something that a lot of people need to understand, is that when you work a life like this, if you don't have your significant other right there with you working that same life, you're going to be alone. And when you're alone working that much, your relationship suffers. There is no real way of balancing. There's no balancing, there's including. You have to learn to include.
Well, Vol Nation, that's about all the time we have for this week. Please go check out Jaiden Frost. Check out Agatha's Curse, Grimewood. Let him know what you think of the book. Follow him on social media. And please tune in next week. It's your boy. Blah.